Welcome to the Fed to Fed podcast, where we dive into the dynamic world of government technology. In today's episode, we focus on innovations in federal health IT with a Digital Health Transformation Award honoree. These programs fearlessly embrace the revolutionary potential of emerging technologies to redefine the landscape of federal health IT. We'll dive into how these visionary programs and teams drive positive transformation and push the boundaries of what's possible. Chris Nichols, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I can't wait to dive in, talk a little bit more about the incredible work that you're driving, you and your team are driving, and love to start with the first question to ask you to share an overview of your program and the innovation you developed to meet this very important mission.
Thank you. So I'll take that in two parts. So just as a quick background, EIDS was formed about 6.5 years ago under DHA J6, really to integrate all of the disparate platforms together. And so we've gone through many iterations of really what I call MAD, right? Mergers, acquisitions, divestitures on the public side, but even in the federal sector. I mean, we have collapsed 24 warehouses together. We've rationalized 34 applications into what we call the MIP, the MHS Information Platform. And the divestiture piece is we had a partner with a federal partner with NIWIC that we could not have been successful with in the beginning and through all of this growth that we've had. And now we fully have divested that partnership and brought it, in-house as an organic team with our own contracts and our own contracting actions, as well as growing our federal staff to the right capability. And that's why it's mad, honestly, because it's all been all over the place. But when you collapse 24 warehouses of data in varying sizes and capabilities over really a small amount of time, 6 years, mind you, in the middle of that is COVID, right? Mind you, in the middle of that time period, due to various reasons, we needed to move fast and furious to a cloud-based product from on-prem, rebuilt the whole capability that we had in 2020 in 17 and a half weeks into AWS, right? And so there's been a lot of up and downs. We're at a point in the platform that I really say that we're at a pivot point going from 24 to 25 because of all those mergers and acquisitions and then divesting of a lot of old products, we're now to a stabilization point of really about what matters and what does it matter and what do we do with the data to drive better change and outcomes in military medicine. And I will actually push on anyone to say we have an opportunity space in the data space to really show an archetypal example of the right way in the health space to manage data, especially at the federal level and across the country. And because we're a worldwide organization supporting 24/7 operations, we have an opportunity to really drive the way healthcare is provided and provisioned and delivered within the military, within the federal health system. Really focused on five principles over now and going into next year. And the first two are really getting our data right. And the second is really optimizing our platform. Originally, I was calling it stabilizing our platform. And to me, that was started really looking at it. So that's kind of demeaning saying stabilizing because we have a great platform, but it's really about how we optimize. And I think going to the innovation piece, the things that we've been doing in the last year and a half around getting our data right and optimizing our platform are not the best amazing things when you look at it outside in from an innovation perspective, but there's a lot of innovation going on. And I say that because to get our data right, with all of that we talked about, with all of the mergers, acquisition, divestiture work that we've had to do, we have over almost 5 petabytes of data. Think about how much that is, right? I mean, the amount, and now a lot of that is duplicative. A lot of that is old data, legacy data, historical, and we've got to figure out how to make it right going forward, as well as going backwards from a research and opportunity space and clinical. And so, one of the things that we've really done about getting our data right from an innovation perspective is implementing the OMOP common data model. And so what that really means is it starts to get to a point that an apple is an apple. In the past, if you had a clinician say, talk about encounter data, they might tie together 6 or 7 different data points. If you talk on the business side of healthcare, they might type 10 or 12. If you talk in the research space or other spaces, when they say encounter, they're thinking about 15 or 20 different ones. But with the common data model, it's really getting that consistency. And so we've mapped all of our core data coming out of MHS Genesis from the bulk data extract, as well as the real-time data we get from Lab Rad Farm, data around via HL7, but we've also mapped all our core data set around the purchase care side. So think about that alone, right? Now we're actually talking the data that we're getting in from our managed care support contractors and the data we're getting from our core EHR is equivalent in nature. And so now you can start to use that as a building block, right? And in that common data model mapping, now we're going after our DMDC personnel data that we leverage. Then we're going after working with my sister PMO, JOMIS, which is my sister program office focused on operational deployment of the operational medicine systems around all of the healthcare delivery products that they are about to deploy. And so now it all starts to tie together. Now, the next steps on the innovation side, and we'll talk about it in a second, but it's really about the so what there, and that's really now getting that implemented, right? And so start to be fully leveraged for analytics and AI, et cetera. On the optimizing our platform, it's really looking at all the vast various software components that we have. It's really working down with my third priority, which is what I call total cost of ownership. In a TCO model, we really need to know where our dollars are going down to every capability and project, because then we're able to start to reallocate within our own budget where the dollars are going so we can optimize the capabilities the right way. And so optimizing our platform and understanding where our dollars are spent and executed gives us the ability to start to really innovate and allow the innovation to really flourish going forward. And then I see 3 components of really all the work that we do within EIDS. And EIDS is really starting to really to identify that it's 2 organizations under one umbrella, right? It's the applications and the services that we provide. And I say that because there are all those 35 plus applications that we provide for registries, for all and many other things, as well as genomics, precision medicine, and a lot of other capabilities. That's the application side. And so I call that applications as a service, right? Because in the end, as we start to innovate, what we really want to be able to do is have the right capabilities that we can have other federal partners, other DoD military health partners come into our platform and do the innovation work on the platform, not just everything that we're doing, right? And that way it's a partnership. And then it's data as a service, because we share a lot of data, we broker a lot of data. The Reserve Health Readiness Platform, Remote Health Readiness Platform, they've changed the name. We're brokering about 15 different data sources and providing that to the reserves so they can integrate and provide care during their drill weekends and provide the clinical work they need to do and the readiness aspect of that. And then another example of data as a service is with JOMIS brokering MHS Genesis data as well as the legacy historical clinical data and brokering that to MHS Genesis to data seed for everyone that's going down range. So the data is already there in those applications. If indeed there's an injury and someone needs to be taken care of, we have that historical perspective. And then really the AI and analytic work. And that's the innovative things going forward, I think, that we're going to start to see more and more of. And I cut you off on your last question, but I wanted to make sure we level set on all of those different components that I think leverage and integrate together to bring us towards that innovation opportunity space.
I love it. And I'm sorry I had interrupted there. That was fantastic. So with opportunity, there's challenges. Could you tell us a little bit more about those challenges and how you're focused on the opportunity side?
So I think with the challenges, it really comes down to, everyone doesn't like the R word, right? Requirements. But it's really, I think 2 of the challenges is getting ahead of the governance aspect of things in the data space. Focusing on what the core functional requirement is to meet the need. We don't need to get down to 25 levels of derived requirements, but really working with the functional community to have them define what they're trying to accomplish when they focus on X, Y, or Z, right? A good example of that is some work that we're doing with the Navy right now with BUMED around readiness and really limiting doing conditions, as well as some things that we're building out, expanding on that in the readiness space with them. And that's been a great partnership because they've been able to outline and explain really what the problem statement is they're trying to accomplish. And then from that, we can really get down into how best to address that, right? And that then starts to tie in the ability to drive things around predictive analytics, AI, natural language processing, machine learning, and how we leverage that data. But tangentially, it goes back to getting our data right, and then leveraging our platform the right way and optimizing that platform to allow those capabilities that they're even proposing, right? I think that's very important. Working with the functional community as a whole around what their priorities are is a critical issue that we're continuing to learn and iterate on. There are others that are lucky enough, and I say it that way jokingly but somewhat serious, that they have one functional partner that kind of directs and dictates, not dictates, but directs here over the priorities of work. We don't have one functional commercial. When you do we look at really everything, we have about 14, because between health affairs, big DoD, CDAO, PNR coming at asking for data and capabilities to be provided, let alone Army, Navy, and Air Force readiness, or I should say medical services that are focused on the readiness aspect of things, let alone DHA, and start peeling back those levels, because they not only obviously does DHA provide and provision clinical medicine, they're focused on readiness as well in some other ways. They have a very big focus on public health. We provide the MIP, and our capabilities provide all of the core health surveillance components and capabilities now. As of last week, we deployed the last one, and for Defense Health Agency. But then they also provide the research space, right? And in the research space, you've got the labs, the service labs that have transitioned over to them. You've got USHUs as well, really under health affairs, as well as then all the GME capabilities, graduate medical education across the organization. And so there's a lot of layers there and a lot of wants, desires, and needs. And so it's part of it is working with DHA and other big partners to determine a demand versus capacity conversation, right? And then from that, what are the priorities based upon that? I think another, not challenge, but opportunity space is that we all in this space wrestle with in many ways is technology is moving at the pace that technology is moving at. Are you familiar with Moore's Law? So Moore's Law years ago basically said compute power, and this thing started in the 70s, and it would double every, I think at the time, 5 years. And now that, if you compare Moore's Law and how fast that's changed, now you're looking at the data space and how much that accumulation of data is happening. And I look at it in the same way, and it's really, that's a challenge because the amount of data coming at us, right? But then it's really then how you leverage that data. And I think the other big challenge that I think we deal with a lot is the expansiveness of this organization as a whole, because the needs and desires down at an MTF are very different than at the markets, and they're very different at the enterprise level that we provide the data for. And then with our federal partners is another challenge at times, right? CDC, we partner with CDC, HHS, and many others, and what is it they need from us, and how do we better partner with them going forward to drive a better federal perspective in this space, let alone the VA, right? I'm remiss of not talking about the VA because it's not a challenge, but it's an opportunity space, especially when you start talking in all of this around interoperability as well. And how do we make it more interoperable? And I'm going to again tie it back to getting our data right and optimizing the platform, right? Because without doing those things, none of that's possible. So
That's great, Chris. So, Chris, what lessons have you learned through this journey, and what advice would you give to others to bring similar innovations to their organizations?
So the fourth core function that I focused on this year is really getting us to a point that we have an innovation platform. And the reason that's been a big focus is because because of the requirements that and the constraints that we have within the Department of Defense from a cyber perspective and other things, we have to figure out a way to find and partner with our vendor partners in a better way, be able to bring them into an innovation platform, really evaluate what they do, not wait for it to go through all of the required and appropriately required, I want to be clear, processes around cyber. So we can really evaluate their tools and capabilities and make decisions quicker on the partnerships that we need to bring in as innovation partners. I think that's been a big thing that I would recommend. We're not there yet. We're slowly getting there, but I think that's a critical piece. I think focusing on what the real purpose and mission of what you do is important. I'm not a technology guy. I'll be the first to say it. I am very anti-technology, and I like to say this all the time. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a critical care ER nurse, right? I was enlisted as a medic, and then as a ER trauma nurse, and then as an informatician, and then a healthcare administrator, and an acquisition guy. So an informatician is someone that is focused on integrating technology with the people, process, and policy aspect of things, and understanding and being able to be that middleman between the technology and development and data side, as well as the clinical and process side. And so I think I look at things probably a lot different than some, but you got to understand your mission, and you got to understand why you're doing what you're doing. It's not about inserting a piece of technology, because if we're about inserting a piece of technology, we're going to fail automatically. You know the trifecta everyone talks about, but I think many people don't pay attention to the people, policy, and process piece and technology. Really, it's four. You got to get your people and your processes and your policies right, or inserting a piece of technology is not going to change anything, because you're not fixing the underlying issues that need to be resolved to truly change the performance of the organization.
Thank you, Chris, for that. That was amazing. So, Chris, in closing, if you're able to share what success looks like down the road, right? 18 months, 24 months, and beyond.
So I think fully leveraging our data, and it goes back to where I was saying the maturity that we've been on, right? Because even if you look at our staffing model has changed over time as well. Because as we've matured, we've pivoted on what our team structure looks like, because of us becoming more innovative and focusing on the so what of the data compared to the platform capabilities. I am more than happy if I don't rationalize one other system, right? Because we've brought so much in-house, but now it should be about building the right connections and the APIs and the right fire calls to get to the data that we need and bringing it into the platform for our customers when they need to. But it's also about, like I said, about the so what of the data, and it's really more about what we do with it. We're doing some work with MEPCOM now around predictive analytics of personnel coming into the system. Are they medically ready, et cetera? And I see that's more of where we're going. And so it's more about 12 to 18 months. It's more about providing the right products and helping guide the organization to better outcomes. And because even with when we talk clinical outcomes, and this is a conversation I was having actually yesterday, interestingly enough, last night with some friends that are all providers, we did some in-house ex-golf, and so we were just kind of talking about, and they're all physicians that I was with, and it's really understanding what their pain points are. It's really about how do we change the model of healthcare and drive down costs. And I think that's part of what's going to be successful in this space is how do we leverage technology and innovation to help drive down healthcare costs within not just this system, but across the federal health system as a whole, and the delivery of care, even in the direct care side and purchase care side outside of military healthcare, and us being an exemplar of that. As you all know, healthcare is a very large portion of the GDP of this country, and we've got to figure out how we tie outcomes with cost and drive better, decreasing costs and better outcomes. We've all been talking about this for years, and I think that's where we are in the data space and in the innovation space to really drive those things.
I love it, Chris. Well, congratulations on the leadership that you're driving on behalf of this program. And we're so looking forward to seeing all of the great milestones ahead as you pull the four legs of those stools together, right?
Yeah.
People, process, technology, and policy. And very excited to watch all of that come together. So congratulations. We look forward to seeing that in action. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.